but only because I think you're kind of pathetic. So you fell in a tank of acid, got your skin bleached, then decided to become a supervillain. What? You couldn't get work as a rodeo clown?
Hey everyone, welcome back to another Sound Only podcast. And I know I was covering the trans myths and everything, and I'm taking a slight break from that to talk about something that's coming out soon, and that thing is the Joker movie. Now, I saw the trailers, and honestly, this movie does look pretty good, and I would like to go see it. The issue is, I probably don't want to go see it within the first couple of weeks, or probably even see it. I mean, if there's a way for me to see it without going to a movie theater, I'd feel better. Because there is a lot of controversy surrounding this film, and a lot of it is not completely unfounded, actually. Now, this version of the Joker, his origin story, again, is different because, again, the Joker really, in the comics, couldn't remember his own origin anyway. So, in this one, he starts off as a guy who lives with his mom and is basically feels like he's trampled upon by society. Nobody wants anything to do with him. He wants to be a stand-up comedian, but nobody laughs, and people make fun of him for that. He essentially becomes the butt of the world. He becomes the butt of the world's joke, essentially. And he decides, as a result of this, to lash out against the society he feels wronged him. Now, the controversy begins when people notice something about some other aspects of the Joker's character that seemed worrisome, and that was that his character archetype almost exactly matches your friendly neighborhood incel. And if you don't know what they are, I mean, if you have been on the internet long enough, you've probably come across them at some point. They are usually men who feel like women owe them sex, and they feel like women are to blame for them being involuntarily celibate. And clearly it has nothing to do with them being a bunch of assholes. Clearly it has nothing to do with that. Clearly it has nothing to do with them idolizing a mass murderer who basically believed that he should go and commit his acts because women didn't want to have sex with him. Clearly, these are great guys. Anyway, the whole issue is that people believe that this movie could inspire somebody to go commit acts of violence, or somebody may actually commit an act of violence at the screening of the film, basically. And then the concern of that is not unfounded, considering that what happened in Aurora when Dark Knight Rises premiered. The belief that the movie could inspire somebody to commit acts of violence, however, may not be entirely unlikely. It is possible that could happen. I mean, I'm not one of the people who would say, like, oh, video games will make people go commit acts of violence because they can't tell reality from fiction or some bullshit like that. The thing about it is that it's happened before. I mean, somebody being inspired by somebody who feels like stepped on by society and then went out and lashed out violently. We saw somebody get inspired by that and went out to do the same thing themselves. We saw that with Song Hui Shou, the killer at Virginia Tech. He idolized Eric Harrison and Dylan Klebold. And then we see the guy behind the Toronto van killing who was himself inspired by Elliot Rodger. You could make the argument that, oh, well, those were real events and people were inspired easily by real events, but film is different. The problem with that is that there are examples of where people have been inspired to commit acts, good and bad, by films. I mean, there's a list here of people who were inspired to basically go start their own types of fight clubs, or were inspired by the quote-unquote message of Fight Club, which, not to mention, there is an actual message in Fight Club that I guess they ignored. And so they went off to start their own fight clubs or their own rendition of Project Mayhem, like, for instance, Elate. a hacker crew that wants to create their own Project Mayhem in order to cause worldwide physical destruction to the security industry infrastructure. They mostly went around terrorizing white hats. And then there was the Australian Fight Club in 2009, where a bunch of teenagers went out and decided to go try and start their own thing, and one of them died. However, there are examples of where movies went out to inspire people to do good things, like, for example, Day After Tomorrow made people care more about climate change. Free Willy led to the whale that was the subject of the film being released. Philadelphia helped reduce stigma of AIDS. Temple Grandin raised awareness about autism, and so on and so forth. There are examples, like I said, films can inspire people to do either things that can be good or bad. It's entirely possible. So I don't agree with Joaquin Phoenix's notion that films shouldn't be teaching lessons or morals. I mean, why not? They're powerful enough to do that on their own. That's that's why some people get into it, to inspire people to do good things. But the thing here is that there's a very good chance that this type of person, the incels, could identify with the Joker and probably use that as to go out and commit acts of violence. It's entirely possible, but considering we know the Joker's story already and it hasn't happened yet, I mean, it's not. I mean, it feels like a stretch to say it's not gonna happen because we don't know what the future holds with this as of late, and the movie hasn't come out yet. So, and there's an example of the military actually telling their service members to be aware of everything if they go see that movie. So, yeah, the thing is, like, I can understand the controversy, and the controversy is not unfounded, but I don't understand the reason why why anybody would want to identify with the Joker, considering he's the exact type of person that these people try to make fun of. Because I always find that there seems to be like a lot of overlap between like white supremacists and incels and everything, and they often like to go after other people and call them snowflakes and crybabies, when the Joker, who I'm assuming they try to idolize in these situations, is an example of one. I mean, if you're gonna go off of the Killing Joke, for example, he had one really bad day, mind you, but still, and that was what turned him into the Clown Prince of Crime. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have Batman, who also had one really bad day, and that inspired him to become Batman to prevent other people from having a similar experience. But keep in mind, when Batman had his really bad day, he was an 8-year-old kid. The Joker was a grown-ass adult. And even then, near the end of the comic, he tries to put Commissioner Gordon through a similar really bad day, and it doesn't break him. Ultimately, the Joker does come off as kind of, well, pathetic. And so I don't understand why anybody would want to identify with them, and try to emulate his behavior. But yeah, the Joker was never meant to be a role model to anybody, and I feel like the Killing Joke made that pretty evident. But from what I understand from some of the people who are probably going to go see this movie, they're going to be quote unquote comic fans, but they've never read any of the comics at all. So I'm assuming that whole thing would probably be lost on them completely. That whole interpretation would be lost on them. So whatever. But yeah, the movie, on the other hand, it does look pretty great. It got a standing ovation at its premiere at a film festival, and yeah, I'd like to go see it, but I am very wary of incels and these people who probably will try to identify with the Joker and probably try to go do something. So I will ultimately may end up just avoiding this film, at least until maybe a few weeks afterward, or at least until it comes out on digital download or on Blu-ray or something, because I am not willing to take that risk. Because, like I said, people can be inspired by fiction. They can be inspired by real events. And like I said, I'm not joking when I say Elliot Rogers considered the patron saint of incels, and because they do idolize him, and they do want to go and do the same thing because they feel like society, but mostly women, have somehow wronged them by not having sex with them or not dating them. When this personality trait is like probably why you're not going, why you probably don't have, why you're probably the way, like, you're probably single. Like, that is one of the reasons. If you're somebody who likes Elliot Rodger, women are going to want to avoid you completely. If you're somebody who thinks women owe you sex, women are going to avoid you completely. I feel like I got a little bit off topic there, but the Joker movie looks good. Probably will see it at some point, just not so soon. Will it inspire violence? I don't know. Future is not written as of yet. Could it inspire violence? Possibly. It's entirely possible. So, yeah. Oh, and one last word: incels are losers. So with that, I'm going to end this video here, so be sure to check out my other videos, as well as Pricebox Productions videos, our channels Pricebox Gaming and Pricebox Reacts, and be sure to check out my main channel, The True Andie. Thanks for watching, and stay jamming, everyone. I really should say thanks for listening, actually.